going to be looking at what we have on the screen. We're going to be looking at managing users, group, and licenses in O365. So I like to believe that by now we all have our trial accounts, right? That's our Office 365 account.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so we can continue. So here are the objectives that we'll try to cover today. So let's see how, if we can look through all of these objectives today. So we'll look at managing users and licenses by administration center. That's using the Office 365 admin center. We'll look at how to manage groups and distribution groups, and we'll look at how to manage some of these identities using Windows PowerShell. So without any delay, let us get into it. Lesson 1. Creating users. Now, when it comes to creating users for Office 365, there are different ways of creating users for O365. One way to create O365 users is by there's a noise, I think, coming in from someone. All right, so we can continue. So one way to create users is on the portal itself. That's the O365 portal, so which I'm going to be showing you shortly. So we can create the O365 users there. Another way of creating it will be to do what is called sync, Active Directory synchronization. That is, if we have a domain controller on premises, right? And we are now consuming the service of O365, meaning we're also a tenant of O365. So in that case, in O365, there's a directory service running in O365. So it will make sense to have a replica of the user account that you already created on-prem, creating it again in the cloud. So it will make more sense, it will make a lot of sense for us to create the user on-prem and run a tool. The name of the tool that we need to run here is called AD Connect. So when we run the AD Connect tool, the AD Connect tool will now find a way of moving the users that we have on premises into the cloud. So not to worry, I'm going to be showing you a demo of how to do it. It's AD Sync, but in a much later lesson. So those are the two ways now. You know, either you want to create it in the cloud only, or you want to do synchronization. However, when you want to provision your users for O365, you can do so in various ways. There are various options available to provision users in O365. One is the portal, another is via PowerShell, and you can also do a bulk import, and the last one is directory synchronization. So let me ask real quick, with Windows PowerShell, do we have anybody that does not know about Windows PowerShell? Or is it something that we're all familiar with? Okay, no one is responding. All right, so can I still proceed? Can you still hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I was asking, do we know about Windows PowerShell, or is it something that is alien to any of us?
No, not very well, but with command prompt, I think.
Okay,
I know
okay.
a bit of a command prompt.
Okay, perfect. So the provisioning of users, we do so using this method. So which we are going to be seeing today, of course, and there will be some assignments. So managing users and licenses is also another one. You know, once you've created your users up in O365, we need to make sure that we assign licenses to those users that you've created. Can we place ourselves on mute and perhaps maybe only on mute when we need to talk? So that way
Okay.
there's interference coming in from some of the participants. So I said when we have users up in O365, the essence of creating users in O365 is so that the service of O365 can be consumed. So users cannot consume the services of O365 if they don't assign a license to themselves, or if the administrator failed to assign them licenses, right? So when you create identities up in O365, the next thing to do is to assign them there's echo coming in from someone. I'm just going to, all right. So let me show you that real quick. So I'm going to log into my browser right now and come to portal. Can you see my browser?
It's not yet on display.
Okay, all right. So let me share that now. So I believe you should be seeing it now. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So to access the portal of O365, the URL is for you to do portal.office.com. Office.com. So if you're looking at me type, you'll see some pop-ups that there is portal.azure.com. So that's how we access the Azure portal, Microsoft Azure portal. But for O365, it is portal.office.com. So hopefully, let's hope that maybe later on in the future, we can also get to learn one of, there are so many Azure courses, and maybe I should also use this platform to mention that there's going to be an Azure bootcamp coming up in Abuja on the 27th of this month. So if you're a developer, or you know any developer, or you're an IT pro, please join. So it's being supported by Microsoft as well. In fact, some swags came in from Microsoft today. So they sent down some pens, stickers, but just a few shirts. So I only got like 5 t-shirts from Microsoft. And then an Azure credits, Azure credits, $80 worth of Azure credit for people to consume. So, and they've sent 100 of $80 Azure credit. So if you know any developer, and people are coming from Microsoft to speak, so I confirmed 2 people today that will be coming into Abuja. They'll fly into Abuja to speak on Azure. So I digress. So back to portal.office.com. So if I click on that, okay, so I'm just going to use this account here. I have this account that I created. So if I can remember my password. All right, perfect. So I remember the password now. So if you don't have your O365 trial, please try to create one before the next class. So you definitely, will need one now. So when you log into the O365 portal, this is what you get. Depending on who is logging in, when you provision O365 for your user in the workplace too, everybody sees this. The difference is that the admin, the person who is a global administrator, the administrator of the organization will see this admin icon here. Whereas the regular users, this one will be security trimmed away from them. They will not be able to see this admin icon. So because we're administrators and we're looking to create users so that they can start using some of these services of O365. So what I'll try to do now is click on admin. And this is what the admin center looks like. So if you have your trial account ready, So you can also try to simulate this with me, you know, so that you also get your hands dirty with me. So I want to create some users from the portal now. So to create the users from the portal, you can see that there is a place for users here. So I'll click. So if you want to see all the users that you already have, you will click on active users. So active users would display users that has already been, you know, that you've already created in O365. So if your tenant is still brand new, you don't have any user created yet, then this should be, you should find just one user here. That's the user that you set up O365 with. Should be the only user that is showing up here. But in my own case, I used this particular account for a demo last week. So I still have it. So I provisioned some additional users, some 3 more users here. So let's look at how we create users. To create a user, I'm going to click on this add user button. Very straightforward, right? So click on add user. And you fill in the blanks. You fill in the blanks, the name. How about we create a user called Muri Sikun Sekinatu. Sekinatu. All right, so that's the name of this user. Then we need to have a username for Muri Sikun. So when you are creating your users, it's best practice to have a naming convention for yourself. So either you want to do first name dot last name, or you want to do initial of the first name and then full last name. So just choose what works best for you. In most environments, they do first name, last name. So I can do Muri Sikun dot Sekinatu. Okay, and you can see the domain here. So the domain is, we talked about this in the last class, so I don't need to reiterate it. But again, is your domain name .onmicrosoft.com. We'll see how to change this later to just have our domain name. So we knock off the .onmicrosoft.com because it's a trial at the moment. It's having onmicrosoft.com. So I need to choose the location for this user. The user is in Nigeria, so that's good. How about password, right? So by default, password gets auto-generated. Auto-generated. But if you are not good with that, you don't feel comfortable for the system auto-generating password for you. Maybe you have a particular password that you use when you create accounts. So you can do that here too. So I can just drop it down and choose this option. Let me create password. And then I'll put in my password here. So let's put that generic password that most IT people know, uppercase P at $W0RD. So that's the password I'm using for this account right now. And we get a checkbox here. Make this user change their password when next they log in. So which is best practice. I mean, you don't want users to feel threatened that because we are administrators, we know their password. No, that shouldn't be the case. Yes, we are giving them a generic password. We tell them, yes, Morisikun Sekinatu, have created your account now. Your username is Morisikun Sekinatu, and your password is the default password. So everybody should know the default password. But when next Morisikun is logging in with our details, then the system prompts her to change, our password to something else. So that's why we should always endeavor to check this checkbox here. Next is the role. You see, when you create a user, what role are you going to assign to that user? By default, out of the box, user role will be assigned to the user, meaning the user will not be able to carry out administrative tasks when he or she logs into the Office 365 portal. For instance, that admin icon will be trimmed away from a user with no admin access, right? But you might want to delegate tasks to that user. Say, let's check out some of the tasks that you might want to delegate. Say you want to make the user a global administrator like yourself. someone who can back you up when you are not on seat, when you are not available, somebody who can as well play your role. So you can assign global administrator to the person, or better still, you might want some customized privileges, so to speak. So if you are trying to customize, so look at all the different custom privileges that we can have. Say you want the person to be in charge of managing services, so just log into the portal, be able to tell if services are running the way they should or not. Then this is the right privilege to assign to the person. Say you want the person to be able to do Power BI stuffs, then you have Power BI, administrator rights that you can assign to the person. So this is principle of least privilege, at its best. We shouldn't just assign global administrator to everyone because they need to perform tasks on the system. Rather, we should be asking what task are they going to be doing for us on O365? Are they going to be responsible for managing SharePoint? If that's the case, then we only need to give them SharePoint administrator. Are they going to be doing Teams for us? Are they going to be doing Exchange? So you look up the appropriate rights for that user so that you are not over-privileging the user, right? So I will choose just a regular user and an alternative email address. So in case you're forgetting something, you can always recover using the alternative email address. Then the last option we have here is product license. Product license. By default, when you create a user, that user is not going to be licensed for O365. Yes, he can log into the portal, but he can't do anything. He can't use Word, he can't use Excel, he cannot use Exchange, no email for the person. The person cannot log into your SharePoint site. The person cannot collaborate using Teams until a license is being assigned to that person. And here is what you need to note in case you are going to be writing the exams, right? So some of these will come up in the exams. You might be asked that when you provision a trial tenant, a trial O365 tenant, what is the number of users that come with a free trial account? So the number of users that comes with it is 25. So meaning that trial account that I've told you, that I've asked you to create, if you've created one, you will have the ability to create up to about a maximum of 25 users. So you have 25 free trial accounts to play with. So for this user, I want to assign this user a license. So let's check this out. I'll click on product license. And you can see the different, you see, I've assigned one out of the 25. I have 25, but I still have 24 left. So what license do I want to assign? So I can say check O365. So these are all the O365 services. Do I want to do Teams? Yes. Maybe I don't want the person to be able to use Microsoft Forms. We build electronic forms using Microsoft Forms. Very nice tool. Maybe you don't want the person to do, let's look at one here, Power BI, right? So I can turn off Power BI for the person. So you can see this user now, Morisi Sekino 2, is having all these licenses with the exception of Power BI. So you can custom build things like they can custom create users like this. So I'll just leave it the way it is now and let's create this user, shall we? So I will by clicking on add. And good, this user has now been created. So I can do send an email and close. So it's not necessary, it's not important for an email to be sent. So I know for sure that you can see user was added. So it's already added. So except you just want to keep the administrator in the know. Right now, this is this tenant's global administrator. So if we want him to know that this account has been created, then we can shoot an email and close out of here, right? So for now, I'm just going to close. There's no point sending him an email. So that's how we create accounts, an O365 account from the portal. So is that clear? Okay, yes, questions, yeah.
I just connected.
Previously, there was alternative email.
Authentic email, okay.
Alternative alternative mail.
Okay, okay.
Now, does that alternative mail works for the user or for admin? Is it that it is made, that provision is made there for users when they forget their password so that they can use it to retrieve their password, or it is an administrator password that you key in there so that you help the user retrieve their information?
No, the alternative email is meant for the user, not for the administrator. So if we know an alternative email for that user, then you can supply one. But it's optional.
Okay. Now, my network hanged a bit on the last mail. That
Okay.
if you want the user to get notified of him being created as part of that particular platform,
yes.
So you key in his mail directly instead of that global email that was there by default?
The global email. I can't remember the global email. You mean the last
just before the the last mail that popped up.
The last mail, it shows up by default. It will automatically put in the email address of the global administrator, right? So it will automatically put it there.
Now.
And you don't have to send an email to the person. It's not necessary. It's not compulsory, right?
Okay.
Yes, perfect. So let's see how to do the same thing. Now we're getting our hands dirty. We're doing some demo work. I'll give an assignment now before I proceed. The assignment is I want you to install Azure PowerShell, Azure AD PowerShell module on your system. Okay, so that's the assignment. You see, I've created this thing now from the portal. But another way of doing the same thing will be to use PowerShell. So let me launch PowerShell. If I click on my Start button, I can look for PowerShell. Or alternatively, let me use the one that we're all used to. So I'm going to launch Run and come to Command Prompt. Okay, let me share this as well. Let me share my Command Prompt. So can you see my Command Prompt screen now?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes.
So I'm going to, I want to get to PowerShell. This is just Command Prompt right now. So I can type Command Prompt commands like, dir, dir, md to make directory, so on and so forth. But the future, is PowerShell. In fact, Command Prompt is almost dead, right now. So most of the tasks now should be done using PowerShell. All of Microsoft technologies now, they are being bundled, with PowerShell. PowerShell comes bundled with them. And what you find is that when it comes to performing tasks, they will tell you, Microsoft will tell you that 80% of the task you can do, with the GUI. But the remaining 20% is PowerShell only. So meaning if you want to be able to do everything under the sun, as far as that Microsoft technologies is concerned, you can get them done using PowerShell. So what that means for us is that learning PowerShell, if we know that you want to know about Microsoft technologies, you want to build a career with Microsoft technologies, then having some basics of PowerShell is no longer an option. It has now become a necessity for us. So we need to know some basics of PowerShell. I'll just run you through the basics just for the benefit of everyone. This is Command Prompt. So for me to get to PowerShell, I'll just type PowerShell. PowerShell. Right. So can you tell, who can tell the difference? Is there, did you notice anything changed?
There is a PS attached, prefixed before the directory of the hard drive.
Okay, good. So you see the PS. So you don't have to worry whether it is Command Prompt, because some people will think, oh, command prompt should have a black background. PowerShell usually comes with a blue background. Don't bother yourself with that. So anytime you see a white and a command line interface, and you see it start with PS, that shows that you are within PowerShell environment, right? So some of the PowerShell commands, the way PowerShell is structured is such that it has this verb noun syntax. Verb noun syntax. If you want to do stuffs in DOS, like you want to view content of a directory, I want to see now what is inside Kazim as a directory, I will do dir, right? This is DOS. But if I need to do the same thing in PowerShell, I'm not going to type dir. I'll need to do this. I'll say get dash child item. Get child item. You see? Get child item. So verb dash noun. That's how PowerShell commandlet is being constructed. So it is pronounced commandlet, but you spell it as CMDlet. CMDlet. So let me do something else to see the power. Let me start to show some basic, some power of PowerShell. If I need to see top 10 processes running on my system right now, I can do that by typing get process. Get process. So what get process will do, it will list all the running processes on the system. All the running processes on my system right now is listing them out for me. Good. But I'm not interested in all of the running processes. I'm only interested in the first top 10 processes. So to do that, I'll need to do get process, yes. But I want to do something else. So which is to select the top 10 processes. So it means I'm doing two things in one line, two commands in one line. So when I want to combine two commands in one line, I'm going to need to use a pipe sign, pipe symbol. The pipe symbol is this. You find it usually above your enter key, your enter button. You see, so I've done get process, then I will also type select object. Then I can put in a first 10. Get process, select object, first 10. And check this out. So it has listed out top 10 processes. Right. So because of time, I will employ you to look at some basic. There are some materials that you can find online where you can learn some of these stuff from. And please, maybe if you can make it to the boot camp on the 27th, there's a lot of goodies to be shared. In fact, Microsoft also gave out some learning websites. If you want to learn PowerShell, you want to learn Azure, all of the Azure courses for free without paying. So they gave me some stuff here to share out to people so you can learn for free without paying. So I'll just jump straight into the one that concerns us. This particular one is just basics of PowerShell, right? Now, for you to be able to do O365 from PowerShell, there's something additional which is required that you install on that your machine. And that thing that is required for you to install is called Azure AD module, Azure Active Directory module, right? So I will want you to install it on your system if you already don't have it on your system, right? So if you don't have it on your system, please install it on your system before the next time that we're going to meet. So because I have it already on my own system, so let me connect to Azure from PowerShell. Because when you have PowerShell, it doesn't mean that because you are connected from the browser, the PowerShell session is also connected. No. So I'm going to connect to Azure from my PowerShell right now. So let's watch how we do this. So the command is connect -msol service. You see, connect MSOL service. If you try it on your own PowerShell and you don't have Azure AD module, it will not work, right? So I'm going to do this now. So I will say connect MSOL service, and I'll press enter. So what you will see, it's prompting me to log in. So I'm going to log in using that credential. I hope I remember it. Kazim.tunde at Kazim.tunde.onmicrosoft.com, and I'll put in my password. So now it's just a waiting game. So if my credential is correct, it's going to log me in. If not, then it's going to complain. Okay, so we can see there are no red splashes on the screen. It accepted it in good faith, meaning I'm now connected to MSOL service. I'm connected to Microsoft Office 365 services, right, from PowerShell. So if I need to do, what can we do? How about we see, let's see what I can do. How about we see our subscription that we have, right? So I'm going to do get MSOL. Okay, so you can see the different stuffs I can do. Get MSOL group, get MSOL group member, get MSOL. How about we do get MSOL user, right? MSOL user. So you see, one of the users that I created earlier is Morisi Kunsekinatu. So let's see if Morisi Kunsekinatu is going to show up as one of the users. So you see, get-MSOL users. Now is going to list out all of the O365 users that you have provisioned. And it tells you whether licenses has been assigned to them or not. So in the case of Morisi Kunsekinatu, we assigned her a license, and you can see that his license is true for this user, right? So this is what you do. This is how you list out available users, you know, up in O365. Let's do something else. I'll show you also here how you create your O365 users. So how can you create an O365 user from PowerShell? To create an O365 user from PowerShell, I'm going to do new MSOL user. New -MSOL user. And so you start with display name if you want. Display name. You can be noting this down, you know. So the display name, let's create another user. Let me think of a name now. How about we create an account for how about Saeed? Saeed, okay, I'll just call Tunga. Saeed Tunga. Okay, so that's the display name that the user is going to have. So we need the first name. First name is Saeed, right? And last name, last name is Tunga. Sorry, Tunga. So we also have user principal name dash user principal name. Now the user principal name, it will be the login account for this user, the account that this user is going to be using to log in. Just like Morisi Kunsekinatu user principal name is morisikun.sekinatu@thedomainname.com. You get the picture. So in this case, we want to stay consistent. We want to maintain the same format. So I'm going to do Saeed.tunga at going to be at my domain name kazimtunde.onmicrosoft.com. So when you're creating yours, don't use Kazim Tunde. So it means you are going to use your own tenant name. Use your own tenant name. Okay, so when we do this, we need location. We need to put usage location. So where usage location, let's assume the location of this user is US. So let's see if it takes it. So I'll press enter now and let's check it out. Good and good. So this user has been created. And you will notice that because I did not specify password was auto-generated for this user. And you can see the password of the user. So you can share it with the user. So I can tell Said now that Said as one of my users, that when Said Tonga wants to log into O365, log in as Said. Your first name is Said, your surname is Tonga, your login name is first name dot last name, and this is your password. Sorry, the meeting is going to disconnect in less than a minute. Please, if it does, you can try to reconnect back. The time lasts for 45 minutes, and I'm hoping that we can have double session today, double 45 minutes. So if it disconnects, please try to reconnect back. So again, this is the password for the user. This is the user principal name. This is the name. So if I want to get my user again, so I'll do get MSOL user. Get